Okay, let's get into this T.I., Tiny, and King situation. Now, we've been hearing about King a lot in the past couple of months. It was just a couple of weeks ago that on a podcast he was saying that he didn't really live with his parents growing up. He said that he really lived with his grandmother and would head to his parents' house to do the show. Now, there's a couple of reasons that could be. Your parents are obviously a rapper and an R&B star. They travel and tour a lot. So, I'm sure there were times when, grandma kept them better than being in the company perhaps of a nanny or something else while his parents were working, right? But, you know, whatever happened, he feels that that's who really raised him and not his parents. And we've seen King rebel. We've seen him on video almost getting into fights with kids. We've seen him with some outbursts of his own on his Instagram lives, etc. So right now he is, asserting his manhood, I guess. So this Sunday at the Atlanta Falcons game, right? Ti and King were disagreeing over Instagram. Well, King was on Instagram Live, and there was a conversation about growing up. And Ti was discussing his childhood and how his children's childhood was that of privileged, right? And he asked his son, about being subjected to living in poor conditions growing up, right? Such as roach infested homes. He said, King, have you ever woke up with a roach on your face? Um, and that, basically he was like, all right, then you don't know what you're talking about. Basically saying that King grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, that he grew up privileged. Tiny also added in saying, King was like, do y'all want to go to the bando in my neighborhood? He said that T.I. was basically lying to boost his public image. And he said to make him look better, he says stuff that he knows isn't true. So Tiny chimed in and said that King had a silver spoon, right? And King again mentioned that he spent a lot of time at his grandmother's house and that he got into a lot of fights as a child. He said, I don't want to be in these gates. I want to be outside in the neighborhood, right? Why is it? And here's the thing. I know we see this a lot sometimes with children that are privileged. I put that in quotes because, you know, different variations of that sometimes they seem to wander into the other side. They may be excited by it, curious about it. In King's case, he was probably exposed to it in doses, maybe just by his dad's rap music. Who knows? But he certainly wants to prove that he's about that life. As he has said frequently, he's standing on business. Sounds like his dad talking, right? I'm just saying. It got serious though, right? They continued to point out, Tiny and Ti pointed out some of his habits, saying that, he cried like a baby to be with his grandmother and would hold his breath and throw tantrums in order to get his way. Could be, maybe he wanted to be at grandma's house because it was easier for him to get away with things. What I will say is, outside looking in, don't know, not going to get into, what type of parent we think Ti is. He does seem to be present in his male sons' lives and interested in them not being embarrassing to the family or not trying to be something that they aren't. He's not encouraging him to be hard like your daddy in that sense, right? But King is not trying to hear that. And T.I. started saying, you are embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing yourself. Tiny also said that his grandmother would allow King to suck his pacifier. And that seemed to really set King off. King was like, ain't nobody sucking a passy. I'm going to tell you why I believe Tiny. Because he said passy. That's what most kids call the pacifier. And, probably in secret, I know a kid that had a bottle till he was about 6 years old. When he would get dropped off at school, he would leave his bottle in the car. The bottle needed to be they're an adult now, obviously, in the car when they returned to it, and did that till about 6, 7, 8, well beyond the time that should have a battle. So these things happen. Andy, what do you have to say about King's
Were
shenanigans?
you done breaking it down?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, they just went back and forth, and then Ti grabbed him up. I guess King couldn't take off the live before that happened, and he was like, "You can't see me. You can't see me." Part of me is like, yeah, that's what your dad's supposed to do if you mouthing off and being disrespectful in public to your parents. But again, I know people are triggered by Ti and some of the things that he has said in the past and some of the choices that he has made. But I don't know. It's just an interesting case. I think that King wants to prove himself and establish himself. And I know that it can be difficult because when you do come from privilege, sometimes people don't take you seriously. They don't think that you have had to put in any work for things or that you've ever gone through anything. So they may try you. So he probably did have fights. But I think that he's being crazy disrespectful publicly. And I don't know. What are your thoughts?